Men, what kind of low-grade do you face on a daily basis? I used to work in a job in the entertainment industry where I wore a kilt a lot of the time. Couldn't believe how many drunken women thought it was perfectly okay to stick their hands up under it and grab a handful of my junk, sometimes pretty aggressively too. I quickly stopped freestyling and wore boxers or compression shorts, and this would lead to the grabbers shouting out, "This loser is wearing pants," before mocking me to their pals. Oh, and far too often my kilt was lifted for anyone in eye shot to see my junk, yet when I pointed out how much trouble I would be in for pulling the same with them, I'd get looked at like I was being fucking ridiculous. Imagine literally trying to grab a guy's junk and then acting like he's the weird one. Bro. You believable. I could never believe the shocked look on their faces, especially when I asked what they thought they were doing. Like they were just having a laugh. Some people feel invincible and they need to be put in check. Unfortunately, when people are being served or entertained, they are a lot more likely to feel like that. That, though, is absolutely crossing the line. By the way guys, if you are enjoying this video so far, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It will help us out quite a bit, and if you don't enjoy the videos in the future anymore, you can always unsubscribe. Let's get back to the video. I worked at a quasi-governmental agency and we hired a young guy fresh out of college. The director, who is a woman, walked in the room one day, walked up behind him, put her hands on his shoulders and literally started rubbing his chest. This was like 3 years ago. He just sat there frozen like a deer in headlights. I kinda lost my and said, what if he was female and a male walked up behind her and started rubbing her shoulders like that? She looked at me like I had two heads. I didn't stay at that job very long. You did a good job of explaining that. I keep picturing a guy just frozen with his female boss him. Yuck. That happened to me. I worked at a family-owned business and my boss's mom walked up behind me and started feeling up my arms while commenting on how strong I'd gotten. The job involved a lot of manual labor. It was pretty weird, but I just awkwardly laughed it off because it was a rural area where I would be laughed off the job before anyone took that seriously. Like Jennifer Aniston in Horrible Bosses. Yeah, this kind of thing happening to guys is a comedy movie. Imagine if were reversed. Chaos. The movie would be cancelled before they even got a trailer out. My husband has complained that there is this societal assumption that men are dogs who always want and as such several times he's not had his marital status respected. Women he's only been nice to in the past have made comments like, yeah, he's in love with me, he'd do anything for me openly in front of him, have sent him messages prompting infidelity, and have even sent images. There's a confidence that they can steal him not only from me, but his past relationships, because men cheat is such an assumption. His favorite thing to say is, the only thing I cheat on is my diet. My father-in-law has said that some women see a wedding ring as a signal that he's extra attractive, or a challenge, or something. He tells a story about a female coworker at his work holiday party. She came up to him and said, "So who are you going home with tonight?" And he said, "My wife," while pointing at my mother-in-law standing next to him. The coworker was like, "Oh, well, let me know." WTF people. That some women see a wedding ring as a signal that he's extra attractive, or a challenge, or something. Not even a wedding ring necessary, all that's needed is for the man to be taken. I was a nobody teenager, no interest in me whatsoever, but the second I got a proper long-term girlfriend, suddenly I was getting attention. If the guy is taken, there must be something good about him, seems to be the thing. Which, sadly, implies that if the guy isn't taken, he must be no good, which is an awful dose of reality in how men are viewed. I used to work in a place where an almost 70-year-old woman would constantly harass a guy in his 30s. Loudly tell him he's handsome, he's say that's name, he's my boyfriend. And everyone would laugh. The guy would chuckle nervously. Every time she had an issue with her computer or couldn't lift something, "Hey, name, my boyfriend, I need you. Everyone thought it was funny. I thought it was gross. The guy being hassled was the quiet type and would never say he was uncomfortable, but I could tell as a woman he was. I finally went to my supervisor and told her what this lady was doing was unacceptable, not funny, and if a man was doing it to a woman he would be fired. She tried to tell me it was just a joke, but I was like, yeah, a joke. Well, something must have clicked with the supervisor. BC later that week the old lady stopped catcalling him and never did it again. Treated me like until I quit though. I work in the health field. This happens frequently with older patients too. It's a little different seeing as it's co-workers vs patients, but I've had it be awkward where one time my patient wanted to take my picture to show all her friends the handsome nurse she has. I appreciate the compliment part, but that'd be weird. My so is a paramedic and said the older female patients are the worst. They are absolutely disgusting. But it's not just the old ones. Basically anyone other than what we would consider baseline normal will be everyone they see. Had a female manager get into my unlocked phone, send mine to herself, and then shared them with the other female manager. I was 24 at the time and both managers were younger. At the time I honestly didn't know how to feel about it, so I just shrugged it off with bravado because they were both attractive, so what the hell. But now I realize that attractiveness isn't a free pass for invading someone's privacy like that. Don't even get me started about being a straight male hairdresser. Also being a straight male who is into fashion. I love a variety of styles such as modern streetwear or vintage 90s style. Every time you wear something more different / exotic than a Nike hoodie plus jeans, everyone assumes you're gay, gives you side eyes or something. It really annoys me sometimes. I don't know how old you are, but hopefully you didn't have to live through the phenomenon. Like Barbara, I just like to look nice. It has nothing to do with I was in the store and an old woman on a mobility scooter wanted to pass me, so I stepped to the side against the shelf. Instead of using all the free space on the other side, she starts turning closer to me as she passes, so my rubs all across her shoulder. She did a weird moaning sound at the same time. I posted about this on Facebook at the time and almost everyone thought it was hilarious. That is creepy and disturbing as but the mental image did make me crack up a bit. To be fair, it's because it's so absurd. I think a slow emo close-up shot would fit into a raunchy comedy movie. Yeah, I wanted to laugh as well after it happened until I realized I had been basically. I guess as a guy you're not used to thinking that way. I've been before. It always creeps me out afterwards, but usually never in the moment, as I was brought up basically thinking women can't do that. I do realize how messed up the experience you had is. It's just the mental image visualizing that is so disturbing that it's surreal. I'm not really sure if it counts or not, but as a male who used to be extremely overweight, I would always have people, guys and girls, trying to touch my man. It made me self-conscious and uncomfortable, and I voiced that, but people continued to do it. They would grab them, or hit them, and pretty much everything in between. It happened very frequently as well, but I guess nobody saw a problem with it, whether it was because I was a guy, or because it wasn't a traditional form of I had a girl do this to me once. When I did it to her, she suddenly didn't find it very funny. She did understand afterwards, and I have a fond memory. Edit, everyone, please don't make it bigger than it was. I did warn the girl, if she continued doing it, I would do it to her. Plus it's been 15+ years ago, and I doubt she even remembers it. It was that small. Similar thing happened with me. A girl spanked my once, and I felt really embarrassed, so I gave it back. Also, it wasn't like a small tap or anything, it was a proper spank, which is why I reacted. Obviously she didn't like it, and she explained me later, me doing this to you, and you doing this to me is different, don't do this again. 32 meters with athletic build. At every job I've had, co-workers and customers have always openly grabbed my arms, smacked/squeezed my and made comments about my appearance that would get me fired if I said them to women. My husband is a server at a high-end restaurant. I know restaurants are restaurants everywhere when it comes to stuff. I've worked in plenty, but he's told me that he gets pretty much every day. Either hit on pretty openly by customers despite the wedding ring, or grabbed/groped/commented on by his coworkers. I'm so sorry you've gone through that. It's absolutely not fair. I hope it ends for you, because I know, even if you said something firm and simple like "no" or "don't touch me," it's already been done, and nothing really changes. I've never in my life understood how people just touch strangers in any way, let alone smack too. Nope. I'm so sorry you have had to deal with that. Right? I can't figure this out either. I'm not a man, was lurking to see answers, because I feel like this is an underappreciated issue for men, but strangers touching me was the worst when I was pregnant. Like UTF walks up to someone they don't know and rubs their belly. Often without even saying anything. I just don't get it at all. People don't understand personal space anymore. As someone who is pretty tall at 6 feet, whenever I'm at the pub, bar or at a party, I'd almost always get a woman ask me if I had a big. Most of the times I just respond saying my girlfriend is a lucky lady, I guess. I even had it happen when I worked as a bartender. Woman asked me this question and bought me a drink and told me to join her and friends after I finished my shift. Just took the money and bought myself some food on my way home after my shift, lol. Edit. Grammar. This my entire life. I'm 2 meters tall, also around 6 feet, but my is a little below average. I feel like I'm leading women on at this point. Edit. Thank you all for the kind words. It's hard not to feel insecure sometimes, eh? If women expect a big schlong on a tall guy, it's their fault for completely misunderstanding the human body. Educating them is not your responsibility, mate. You do you. I'd ask them if tall women always have the largest because being tall obviously means a body part with no bone and it must be large too. I wouldn't call it but women just touching my hair without asking happens all the time. I have really long hair, but I can't imagine most women would be okay if some guy just started playing with their hair at a bar. If they just ask my permission, I'm usually cool with it. The worst was the chick who grabbed my braid and started yanking me around. Thankfully 4 women rescued me. I don't even know why that chick was pissed at me. She was just pissed I had long hair and extremely drunk. I almost had to punch her. It was so confusing. I've had some weird experiences too. I was eating in a pizza ranch with my dad as a 17-year-old, and one of the waitresses walked up behind me and just grabbed my hair and commented on how nice it was. This happened as I had just taken a huge bite of pizza. It was so awkward. My dad was like, "UHH, do you know her? She was cute," and I was really flattered, but at the same time WTF. I'm not sure what a pizza ranch is, but I really want to visit one, not for the part, but because it sounds awesome. You city folk are so ignorant. You think all your food just appears at the grocery store? That's where they raise the pizzas. Pizza Ranch is a pizza buffet place in the Midwest. They typically have a cowboy ranch style atmosphere. They are indeed quite awesome. Most of the time, it's a chain, so occasionally you run across a poorly managed one. The ever-present assumption that the end goal of all my interactions is I can't even be friendly to children without someone assuming it's in some way. Dude, same here. I always feel like I should stay 10 feet away from kids, since I'm an adult male. People assume I'm a creep. I barely smile at children I walk past in the store without being hyper aware of that. If I do smile, it's only for a second, and I turn and walk away just in case someone thinks I'm too interested. I've been accused of being a creep in the past. I don't need that in my life. I tend to do some silly thing like pulling a face if I see a young kid stare at me when I'm in a waiting room or in a line at a store. It's an unconscious action. I just like to make people laugh. Have to be careful with that nowadays. As a young kid in the early 90s, I was traveling with my parents by train and we were in the same compartment as a punk guy. Me, fascinated with the rings and tattoos and weird hair, just went over to look at the guy. When he saw my parents were fine with him interacting with me, he just started crying. I guess lots of parents were just scared of him, and he hadn't had that kind of interaction in a while. Happy Cake Day. As a child I was touched/fondled regularly by the female teacher and elder students. When I complained to the head teacher, she said that I should enjoy it because I'm male. I was 12, any bystander would just assume I was the one. Women sometimes 10 to 20 years older than me because I would bite in defense. Schools was hell. In 2nd grade I was friends with this popular boy in our class. Every day at recess, all the girls would literally chase him around the playground. I never got into that because he's my friend. B, that's weird. C, I'm not going to waste my recess time running there's gym class for that. One time I sat next to him on the bench, and he was like breathing heavily, and I think crying a bit. I felt so bad about his situation. I urged him to tell the teacher. He told me that the teacher said to enjoy the attention. So messed up. Kid couldn't enjoy his recess time. He was getting and our teacher tells him to enjoy it? He cried so hard when I had to move away. I still think about him from time to time. Peter, I hope you're doing alright, man. Wow, talk about a repressed memory coming back all at once. This happened to me. I'd completely blocked it out until I read your comment. In my case though, one of the teachers actually did step in and tell them to stop, but pretty much every other teacher didn't see any problem with it. I'm not sure if much has changed since, but one can hope. Getting physically and verbally by women in nightclubs and then being asked to leave because of it. Even with multiple people trying to tell bouncers what was actually happening, they'll always just pick you to throw out. That's unfortunately an economics thing more than anything else. Women in a club attract men who buy drinks and throw cash around thinking they'll get laid. A club full of men does not attract women tossing around cash. I was kicked out of a bar once because we were level-headed. A drunk tried to pick a fight with a buddy in my group and we all collectively tried to calm him down and mediate why the dude was angry at my friend. No real reason was stated, and I think he was just unlucky and this wanted a fight. Bouncer came up and was like, hey, I know this is but can you guys leave please? The cops are coming for the It's going to be easier if your buddy isn't here. Free drinks for the night next time you come, and here's a card saying as such. Dude was a total bro, and we pretty much became regulars after that. I don't know why this is getting downvoted, lol. It's unfortunately true. It should not be how it is, but that's the best monetary decision on a club's part, to keep more women around. Just like parties where guys pay and women come for free or discounted. It should be different, but probably never will be. A female coworker, I tell her, if she was male, she would have been fired multiple times for her behavior. She just laughs and says yeah, probably. Well, from that point on it's game on to give her Creeper's nickname, always said in an endearing and amicable way. When someone comments, just smilingly tell them this is your funny collegial work anecdote that led to this little joke. If they can take own it as the badass saw, I'm pretty sure Creep isn't gonna do. Oh, but calling someone public will get a whole different reaction from bystanders than calling her creep in jest. It's not about how she's going to respond to it, it's the image building you can do with others she interacts with. Girl here, back in the day when I went clubbing, if a guy friend was being by someone they didn't feel comfortable with, I'd act as GF to them, stand up for them, or tell the girl to get lost. Guys would do the same back. Is no matter your gender. So sick of guys not being taken seriously when they get or Hey. Good on you. I've done this a lot as a guy and also walked up to random girls and asked if they could just help me out. I know this sounds weird, but no girl has ever made me feel stupid about it. It's actually pretty fun being the impromptu rescuer. How do you ask them though, when the girl that's harassing you is right next to you? I have an idea. Maybe you could pretend to get a phone call from your GF. Make up a pet name to call her. Make the person think your GF is coming over or something. There should absolutely not be a need to do it, as people should respect you when you say you're not interested, but some people are absolute. We were at a car boot sale, can't remember the American term, and a load of guys were a woman who had a stall next to ours. My brother walked over, stood beside her, and said, "I'm done moving all that stuff. What now?" Made up name, and she was like, "Ooh, and the only had somewhere else to be. Then she clocked on and was thankful. She was legit just selling old clothes on her own, including stuff that I assume was her husband/partner's, and these guys came over to try to grab everything for a buck or two. Got my junk grabbed and pinched once when I was in a public transport by an older, homeless looking woman. Everyone saw what happened and didn't do nothing. I was in shock and didn't know what to do, so I just pretended nothing happened. A woman who was celebrating her 21st birthday did the same to me at the bar. I left the bar to go home, and she was outside crying, obviously sloppy drunk. She had been dancing with a bunch of dudes, which made her insecure boyfriend super upset. I had no idea what the situation was, so I walked up and asked if they needed anything. She looked straight up at me and grabbed my hard. I backed away, obviously shocked, and she tried it again. Then the boyfriend started screaming, "Do you want me to kick his? Is that what you want?" And she sobbed even harder. I was so confused by everything, I threw my hands up, said good luck with that, and bounced. There were people all around, but no one seemed pissed when she grabbed me. Most were laughing. Now, I have a 6-foot rule with drunk, crying people who I don't know. I lost a friend group cause a drunk girl grabbed my junk hard too, and my reflex was to kick in her direction. So I kicked her in the face. Apparently you are not allowed to defend yourself if the attacker is female. Dude. I totally get that. When she grabbed me, I felt a shoulder twitch. I think that was me suppressing the reflex to slap her in the face. In high school, it became a thing, for an inordinate amount of time, to knee each other. It took me a while to realize that there was no opting out. After a few times of getting kneed in the balls, I decided to block with the cross junk thigh shield and slap them in the face as hard as possible. I became pretty reliably good at it. Well, fast forward 6 years, and that Pavlovian reaction almost got beat after my own. Yikes. Sorry that friend group sucked. I hope you found a better one. My family owns a restaurant and I would help out doing the dishes and operating front of house. My mum mainly hired female waitresses for some reason, and I overheard things like, "He's cute, I wonder what it's like to ride Asian guys." And one time, one of the girls finished their shift and I was brushing the floor near entrance. She came up to me and grabbed my with a lip bite. I was really uncomfortable as I had a girlfriend at the time. I stalked them on social media for a bit, and I found out they were really into pop, and one of them had a history of dating Asian guys. They eventually quit as they had A-levels to prepare for, equivalent to AP, and because I live in a small town, I bump into them a lot, meaning they stare whenever I walk past them. I only recently found out about the widespreading trend of Korean guys. I keep hearing all kinds of stories similar to your own. Weird to think pop is inspiring this kind of a. I guess some people just can't tell reality from fantasy though. This is the end of the video. Thank you guys for staying with me till the end. If you enjoyed watching this, you might as well watch these too.